Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my Sandland perspective. And I really enjoyed this game. I was a little bit worried, but I played it on Steam. I played a little bit of the demo to kind of get a feel for it. And I actually, overall, really enjoyed it. I think it was a pretty good RPG where you kind of get into some skills. It's more kind of rudimentary, but you can really kind of customize your vehicles that kind of go on with Sandland. And my main kind of gripes are pretty much on the leveling system and trying to pretty much get resources. But it never dulled my enjoyment of the story and the world that we get in with Sandland, which is pretty much if you tasked Akira Toriyama to make Mad Max. So it's very much like early kind of Dragon Ball. Not Dragon Ball Z. It doesn't go completely crazy kind of power scaling, but it's very much kind of funny, like not completely juvenile toilet humor, but more like we get the kid Beelzebub, who, even though he's like the kid to the Demon King Lucifer, is like 2,500 years old. So it's like, oh shit. But he's going around, and he's the one that we pretty much play as most. And we get him into this whole thing because this Sheriff Rao is trying to find this legendary spring because we're in Sandland. It's literally called Sandland. We also find Forest Land later on. And he's trying to look for a legendary spring for all the people. And one of the great kind of things that we get for Beelzebub, even though he is a fiend and a demon, we see him kind of fighting these people to get some water, and then we see this one kid needs water, and he just kind of gives him some water too. He's like, that's the great kind of fight that we get. He's like, I'm evil, and you ain't gonna out-evil me, motherfucker, and then like goes and like some cracking some ass and shit like that. It's funny because it's that kind of thing of like, I do good, but I'm supposed to be bad, so fuck you, motherfucker, and I'll still help you, even though he kind of gets a little bit out of it, and trying to be the bad guy, but still being the good guy. And we see Rao also changing and growing over the journey as well. We learned that he is this disgraced General Shiva because we saw a kind of thing in the beginning trying to go after this rebel army and destroying this Aquanium kind of thing, and it does this giant explosion. It destroys a lot of towns. It actually kills Rao's wife. And he's been carrying that for all these years and just trying to be better and do better. Eventually, getting redeemed and helping to save Sandland from the myriad of crazy-ass shit that kind of starts popping up. Thief also journeys with Beelzebub, as they then get also join with Anne, who is their kind of mechanic, very much of your Bulma kind of character, where she's the mechanic of everything and kind of gets you into everything with your tank, your car. You've got all these kind of vehicles that are kind of cool, but you don't really use much. You kind of stick with certain kind of ones to kind of get through certain kind of explorations. That's another kind of thing. Your main leveling kind of sources are the main story missions, and then after that, you kind of have to do some grindy kind of stuff of like trying to get mats, which helps you kind of get towards the level cap. But if you're trying to level cap level, you're going to kind of have a bad time. That's the main thing, but also trying to figure out the map is not the easiest thing in the world either. Those are some pain points that were really kind of big. Where you're trying to figure out where to get to certain kind of objectives, and it's not very clear, even within the environment, how to kind of get there. There's certain times where it is clear, you've got your kind of yellow signposting to kind of get you there, but sometimes you're like, how the fuck do I get there? And it's not easy to figure out, even with a map and everything, so it's like, ooh, fuck me. So we've got the vehicle-based combat, which is your Mad Max kind of style kind of stuff, and then your regular kind of combat, where you're just kind of pretty much a brawler. You've got certain kind of things where you use Beelzebub's kind of darkness powers to kind of power certain kind of techniques. You've got your people floating around in the background, but you can use them for certain kind of skills for mainly picking up. Like Thieves is more geared to getting you resources and stuff, and more for better kind of vehicle stuff. Rao is utilized more as the kind of offensive kind of technical kind of things for combat, but I never really used Rao's much. Thieves was the most kind of useful kind of stuff, even on the passive kind of front, and gets pretty much there towards the second half of the game where you're like, okay, I haven't really invested much in this, but here's it kind of going here. So it's pretty much split into two parts. We've got the main thing of Sandland, trying to deal with the whole legendary spring, dealing with the royal army and the king, and then of course learning about the destruction. Commander Zeu and the king pretty much worked with the whole thing with the Aquanium and how they have pretty much sequestered a water source for themselves and damming up this river. They do find the legendary water source, but that is linked to the Peachy, who are aliens. I mean, we get devils, we've got demons, and we also do have angels, but that doesn't factor in until the later part. And then we've got the Peachy, which we investigate certain of their ships for pretty much resource scrounging. Again, that gets into like, hey, this isn't really that easy to figure out where I'm at the map. The map definitely needed better kind of design. And even though I have these friction points, I still really enjoyed this because I loved the world and the characters. That was where it kind of like bumped up. Like the gameplay wasn't completely and utterly crap or anything. So it didn't really get a friction on. I just loved seeing Beelzebub doing all this kind of stuff. We also got linked up with this town of Spino and building it up, and it was really cool to see and put all these different kind of characters to live in there and seeing the town build up, get more access to resources and everything like that. That was a kind of nice little thing, but it also helped with the growth of like Beelzebub, and everyone was like, yay, Beelzebub. He's like, I'm evil, damn it. And also his stuff is to try and find video games, and he's like, oh shit, I could get this kind of console and everything and play that. And he's got strict limits from his dad, and he actually broke one of those limits at one point, and his dad punished him by making him clean the entire demon village. So that was kind of funny. You can really, now as a gamer, it kind of really works out well, but the thing is you have to be careful, like, hey fellow kids, here's this gamer character. It comes off naturally of like him being a kid and wanting to kind of play in this apocalyptic world and trying to find games and everything like that. And the voice acting worked pretty well. I'm like, okay, Beelzebub, you work. It wasn't like completely annoying or grating or made me want to just like stab my ear holes out. So takes a little bit. We get our usual kind of side quests that are out there. We get our resource ones. We get the ones that are getting people back into the town. And that actually helps out more. Most of the side quests pretty much deal with building up Spino. So if you're not really into Spino, I could get that being a kind of problem. But it varies it up enough that you do want to do the side quests, because even though you don't get really experience points, you do level up the town and get access to other kind of resources and other kind of shops. So that way you can buy different stuff. Now, granted, at the end, I had a lot of Zenny left over. You also have to have Zenny to upgrade your vehicles, but towards the end, I just picked certain kind of ones. It's like, oh, okay, because you got your certain ones in Sandland, and then after progressing through the story more and more, you get access from, like, you got a tank, you got a hover tank, you got a car, you got a hover car, you got a bike, you got a hover bike jet thing, you've got a battle armor, you got like a battle bot kind of thing. Most of them are interchangeable enough that you can pick whichever favorite one you want and upgrade it. I was able to upgrade everything to 30 by the end, but then we start getting into kind of endgame things, which really kind of sucks because you really don't have much left over. You pretty much are getting these to run bounties to gather resources to upgrade other kind of stuff. So I mainly then towards the end stuck with the hover tank and just got the kind of like mythic kind of weapons, because there's a grading kind of system that goes on and you can get some good drops from certain kind of enemies, but the RNG is kind of like, what the fuck? So you pretty much want to grind out this battle arena, which gives you like these boss fights that you played through the game, and you're fighting through them to get these coins to then buy the things and have a better kind of thing. I just kind of racked out my hover tank, and I pretty much got this like railgun thing and this laser watt kind of thing as the secondary, and I had this like quantum cannon kind of thing going on as well as a special kind of resource for it. Other kind of thing that's kind of weird is that you got to build these vehicles, you need a frame and a blueprint, which doesn't really, you're like, what? Because you have to have the frame to build it, but you need the blueprint to make the parts to then slot them into the frame to then build it. So it's kind of like, what the fuck? So you have to look around to figure out, because it's not all kind of telegraphed very well within the game, where you're like, how the fuck do I get this kind of stuff? That's pretty much why I do anything that I've got. And I do guides to make sure what's kind of going on. Here, if you were trying to figure out, it's like, where the fuck's the frame? Okay, and then you spend an inordinate amount of time trying to find that. And it's like, all right, where the fuck's the blueprint? Because sometimes there were certain kind of races. Sometimes you get them with silver coins that you have to dive into ruins to get. Other times you're like, it sometimes is a quest thing that you can get from it. And you're like, okay, there are various avenues that you can go through, but it's not like you got tank battle things that you can go for the tank route. You got these kind of race things. Well, it does make sense that you do the race things for the motorcycles, but it's not completely telegraphed where you'd have to go to find those kind of races for them, because you'd have to go to the race point and utilize the fast travel to do that. I kind of fucked myself over a little bit in the fast traveling department because I thought I couldn't fast travel through Spino. But the thing is, towards the end, I was able to be like, oh, you can go through Spino, Sandland, and Forestland. So the strongest bit, I think, was dealing with Rao's Pass and Beelzebub and Sandland and getting the water flowing and everything like that. Forestland evidently is kind of what the game, and I think the anime, which I will look into the anime at a certain point, because that's a different kind of thing of like watching it versus playing it. But I really enjoyed this and just want to see how the characters and stuff kind of interact and work through on that kind of front. Where you get drawn into this whole thing of, who the fuck's this Mooniel dude? And Bread, I do love that it sticks with the typical kind of Akira Toriyama kind of things of how these characters are named. But we see that Mooniel is actually an angel and is trying to wipe out all the demons because he believes that he's perfect and that, like, angels are awesome and all that kind of shit. We do learn later on. He's even calling himself an archangel. But evidently Lucifer, he tried to go after Lucifer, and Lucifer's like, fuck you, buddy. Ripped his wings off and fucking thunder flicked him into Forestland, and that's why he's pretty much trying to utilize these people for his own kind of vendetta, which is like, you an asshole. And we see the power of that flick because Beelzebub does flick a motherfucker. It's like, ooh, shit, you don't want to fucking do that. And it's funny because he's always as respectful towards his father as possible. Even seeing that in certain kind of like Sandland side quests where you help Rosetta, who is Rosetta and Bread, who have, after the whole kind of kerfuffle, are trying to make amends with Lucifer, and Lucifer's like, fuck it, thank you for giving me my grape juice that I'd sit in the place for like 100 years to see how it works out. Now leave my fucking ass. And they're trying to be like, we're trying to make amends and everything. And Beelzebub's like, he didn't fucking kill you. He's not mad at you. Go please, go please, go please. And it's really kind of, you don't understand that until, if that was out of context, which at this point it kind of is if you're listening to this and watching this, since you've sat with Beelzebub throughout this, he's like, yeah, he's trying to be himself and trying to get his own identity and everything like that. But he understands to not fuck with his father on certain kind of things. And him being like, no, just let it go and let it be. So we see and try and see what's going on with the Resistance. This is very much a Anne-focused one because she's a princess there. She's actually also the niece of Beelzebub, her mother being Lilith, Beelzebub's sister. And Muniel's like, yeah, I beat her. And then we see that he utilizes an urn to pretty much suck in Lucifer. This is a big kind of trope that's usually utilized within Akira Toriyama's thing as works. Very much seen mainly in the original Dragon Ball, utilized against King Piccolo. And such. We also see it pop up a little bit into other Dragon Ball kind of properties as well. But usually when he's got demons and stuff like that in play, this is another kind of like evil sealing wave into like a jarred urn kind of thing. So it was kind of nice to see this. And it was like, Beelzebub's like, my sister's a badass. That motherfucker did not beat her. And he didn't. He just put her in a fucking Pokeball kind of shit. And we see her pop up at the end. And we see that we are able to rescue Anne's father, which of course we had to deal with the whole kind of fake out that they were going to kill him before, and getting him out and fighting and doing all this kind of stuff with the giant kind of battleship, turning Rosetta to our side and seeing that Brett is like, what the fuck are you doing, Muniel? And just having kind of boss battles along the way. Now, the boss battles, you at least have certain kind of strategies that you can go for with certain kind of vehicles. I kind of stuck to whatever kind of worked for me and what kind of vehicles I kind of liked at that point. They would mainly take a little bit longer, but they were scaled enough that it did feel kind of bullet spongy, but I didn't feel like I was there for like 3 hours attempting to do a thing, where it should have mainly taken like 30 minutes. So it's bullet spongy, but not to the extreme where I'm like, fuck me, I'm out. I just had fun playing the game and the gameplay loop, and learning about the story. Now, Forestland felt like it kind of lengthened it a little bit more than it really needed to, and I kind of actually would have been fine with them ending with Sandland, but I liked seeing more of Anne trying to figure out what's going on, helping her father, coming to terms with the resistance, and helping them as much as possible as they then beat Muniel. He was a interesting kind of boss battle, as we fight him first just as Beelzebub, and then he of course absorbs the Aquanium and all that, and then he becomes big and then tries to do all these kind of other stuff, but I mainly just use the BattleBot to beat his ass before we see everything kind of going on. Lucifer setting him back to where he is then punished by the other angels to clean the storehouse for like 1,000 years, because he was not supposed to do what he was doing. He's like a low-level motherfucker, and I do like that. Yeah, I find it funny, but the thing is, it's mainly down to, like, what would usually be going on. It's like, if they're distinct races, they would have communications of what's kind of going on, and Lucifer's like, this motherfucker's doing shit, and they're like, alright, we got this shit, we handling it. Fuck you, buddy! You fucked up. So, I do like that. I just like that they're being people and trying to be, alright. And the demons, they're not bad. I mean, they say they're bad and do all this kind of stuff, but they need water, and of course, Lucifer let Beelzebub go with Rao to get access to the water. It's like, yeah, of course, and we see the river coming back through and everything. We help the Peachy and all that, and then everything kind of working out well between Forestland and Sandland. And that's my biggest kind of thing. I just love the world and the characters and what was going on with it. I like the designs of them. The stealth sections also kind of sucked. I'm not gonna lie on that. That mainly brought up because of Thief and utilizing his Santa outfit. That's kind of funny stuff. The Persona 5 Phantom Thieves callback side quest was very nice as well. However, you're utilizing the stealth system. And the thing is, I didn't know how punishing it would be, but you do get generous kind of save point checks for that kind of bit. And you can save anywhere. And you've got a generous amount of save slots as well as your auto saves too. So keep that in mind. I didn't have any technical issues playing on Steam, and it just worked. I had heard things of like, oh, this sounds pretty kind of, that it could be kind of bad, but I had a really fun time with it and would recommend it to people that are looking for a Mad Max kind of thing, Akira Toriyama style. I mean, that's kind of like probably a niche subset, but I just had fun with it. And probably if you're going on, like, the problems that I'm going on, like, the perfect 7 out of 10 game, if you're going on that kind of rating scale, which I usually don't. I'm usually more kind of like thumbs up, double thumbs up, thumbs down, double thumbs down, and then just kind of go into why I would do that and everything like that, and what kind of goes on. I would definitely recommend this to anybody that was probably into the anime. Just keep in mind the kind of negatives that I've got, and if these go into such a kind of like really high level of tolerance that you've got. The thing is, the main draw of this will be the story and the characters. If you don't give a shit about them, that's where all of my pain points and probably the gameplay will come into effect, and you will be like, fuck this game. It's a waste of my money. It's a waste of my time. Fuck this shit. Which makes sense, okay? If I didn't have the strong kind of characters in the world and wanted to learn about them and just wanted to interact and be with them, I would have just been like, this is an okay technical game. Like, it does everything technically right, and it's fine. That's what it would be. That the story and the characters and learning about them and going through them is what kind of pushes us up and gets it into that kind of top tier of me having fun. And that's just the objective. I'm like, I had fun with this. And that's even saying that I kind of would have been like, you know what? You could have kind of cut the forest land. Which is kind of weird, where I could be like, I like this stuff, but you gotta get rid of that. Especially when trying to figure out because of where you're going. That one, Sandland had its like navigation issues, but Forest Lane kind of upset of like going kind of more vertical and like going up cliffs and down cliffs and trying to figure out how those kind of work out. It gets a little bit gnarly, and then more kind of water sources. So you're like, fuck, do I need to have my hovercraft on this shit? So keep those in mind. But if you're into that kind of style, that's why I would recommend it. If you're not into kind of vehicle combat and simplistic brawlers, and it just doesn't look for you, I would definitely just recommend not going for it. If the demo is there, check it out. Play it as much as you want to get a feel for it. If all else, if you do it on Steam, I definitely think the 2-hour kind of mark, like, play it enough that you get maybe close to the 2 hour to see if you are into it. And if you're not, definitely refund. Like, oh, I hate to say use it kind of like a rental kind of system, but figure out what store or platform you're into, see what their refund structure is, and how it kind of goes from there. If you get it physically, go for used if you're not that sure about it. And then that way you save some money and you're not completely out and be like, fucked. So, yeah, I really had fun with this game. And it sucks that Akira Toriyama died, because I would like to see more stuff from this world. I'm like, damn. Well, we'll see if they do any other kind of stuff with it, because, of course, Dragon Ball is going to continue because it's Dragon Ball. And he has inspired so many people on that kind of front that you'll probably get stuff done forever. I really didn't hear much about this, but I would really like people to play with this, because this world's got some shit in it that I would really like. If you have like some ideas and everything, they could explore and do some interesting kind of stuff there. So those are my opinions on the game. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.